The ATP circuit boss explodes against Carlos Alcaraz and Sinner. The absence of the two best tennis players in the world left a void that not even the brand new champion, Ben Shelton, could completely fill. Today I'm going to tell you what really happened behind this controversy, why the calendar is under fire, and what all this means for the future of tennis. The professional tennis season is an endless marathon. Players go from clay to grass, and then to hard courts, with barely days to adapt. This year, Wimbledon ended and, in just 2 weeks, the Canadian Masters 1000 arrived. For many, that gap is insufficient, and for Sinner and Alcaraz, who came from exhausting battles, it meant stopping. Physical and mental wear and tear is no invention. Every point played at this level wears you down like small boxing matches. At Roland Garros, Alcaraz beat Sinner in an epic match, but at Wimbledon the story was reversed. Sinner took the final in 4 sets, a victory he celebrated as sweet revenge. However, the victory came at a price. Both players were dragging discomfort and fatigue. The idea of jumping straight into such a demanding tournament as Canada seemed unsustainable. So, as much as it hurt, they chose to pull out of the tournament and prioritize their recovery. Carl Hale, the director of the Canadian tournament, did not hide his frustration. For him, seeing his main attractions erased from the list was like removing the stars from a movie poster on opening day. Hale understands the need for rest, but believes that the big players also have a responsibility to the circuit and to the fans who pay tickets to see them. In his statements on the podcast Nothing Major, Hale made it clear that he is in talks with both to guarantee their presence next year. His main argument: in 2026, the calendar will be adjusted and there will be 3 weeks between Wimbledon and Canada. That would allow a more reasonable rest, preventing this situation from repeating itself. Meanwhile, the Canadian public had to make do with an equally competitive tournament, but with a different flavor. The final was won by Ben Shelton, a young American promise who took the opportunity to shine. Although his victory was exciting, many felt that the extra ingredient Alcaraz and Sinner bring was missing. For the fans, the situation opened up an eternal debate: should players prioritize their health and longevity or fulfill the commitment to play all the major events? The answer is not simple, because elite tennis is both a sport and a show, and both sides must be carefully balanced. In Cincinnati, the return of Sinner and Alcaraz once again raised expectations. The Italian debuted by crushing Daniel Galan with a double 6-1, as if to make clear that the rest had been worth it. Alcaraz, for his part, was preparing to face Bosnian Damir Djumhur, eager to get back into action. This return reignited the debate about whether Canada really lost a unique opportunity. The underlying problem is structural. The ATP designs its calendar to maximize revenue, visibility and competitiveness, but sometimes forgets that players are human, not machines. A couple of weeks can make the difference between a vibrant show and a parade of injuries. The extension of the gap between Wimbledon and Canada planned for 2026 seeks precisely to mitigate this risk. Meanwhile, Hale's words can be interpreted as a wake-up call to all the top players on the circuit. It's not just a marketing issue. For tournaments, the presence of figures like Sinner and Alcaraz is essential for ticket sales, sponsors and television broadcasting. Without them, interest drops, and with it, the event's economy. On the other hand, Sinner and Alcaraz must also manage their careers as a limited resource. A saturated calendar could shorten their time at the top, and both have their eyes on Grand Slam titles and on staying healthy to remain at the elite level for years. The balance between caring for the body and fulfilling commercial commitments is fragile. Fans, although sometimes disappointed, usually understand. The show is better when the stars are at their best, and a strategic rest can guarantee memorable matches later on. However, for organizers, every absence of a star is a lost battle in the fight for the public. In short, this episode has shown that modern tennis is not only played with racket in hand, but also in offices, with decisions that affect both the health of the players and the attractiveness of the tournaments. The ATP calendar is like a puzzle where each piece placed wrong can change the entire picture. In Cincinnati, the thermometer has decided not to have mercy. The players face temperatures close to 40 degrees, a scenario that forces them to adjust strategies and measure every effort. For many, the sweltering heat is a hard barrier to overcome, but for Carlos Alcaraz, who grew up in Murcia, this is almost familiar territory. In his homeland, summer also turns the air into fire, and that habit seems to give him an extra edge. After defeating Serbian Hamad Medjedovic in the second round, Carlitos made it clear that the conditions don't scare him. "I'm from Murcia and it's very hot there, so I'm used to it and I try not to let it affect me much," he said with a smile. This confidence is not just a matter of attitude, but also a physical and mental experience. He knows that in these conditions, tennis becomes as much a battle of endurance as of technique. One of the secrets of his game in extreme climates is to simplify. As he explained, on days like these he focuses more on the serve, because long rallies can quickly exhaust you. However, when he detects that his opponent is suffering, he changes gears, and try to make the point even longer. It's a sort of psychological game, where the heat goes from being a difficulty to a tool to wear down the opponent. In his match against Medvedev, Alcaraz showed a much sharper serve than in his debut. "I served better than in the first match. I feel better and each day I feel the ball much better," he said. This progression is key, because in short tournaments, each round serves to fine-tune sensations and adjust the game plan. Medvedev, known for his power, could not impose his style against an Alcaraz who moved him from side to side without rest. The tactic was clear: force him to run, wear him down, and take advantage of any sign of fatigue. And with the heat as an ally, that strategy becomes even more effective. Beyond the result, the match was proof that Carlos not only adapts to the conditions, but knows how to turn them into an advantage. It's a mindset that few players manage to master, and which could make the difference in his preparation for the US Open. Now, Alcaraz's next challenge in Cincinnati will be Italian Luca Nardi, a young player, talented and unafraid of long rallies. For Carlitos, this match will be an opportunity to continue testing how the heat can play in his favor, especially if he manages to take the match to a physical battleground. Managing the heat in tournaments like this goes beyond physical condition. It includes constant hydration, breathing control, strategic pauses, and a firm mental focus. Alcaraz, used to training in the Mercian heat, has that habit ingrained in his routine, giving him an advantage over rivals less accustomed to it. The psychological factor is also decisive. When a player suffers from the heat, his body language betrays him: slower steps, heavy breathing, gestures of discomfort. Alcaraz is alert to those signals, and when he detects them, he increases the pressure to force the rival to make mistakes. It's a game of chess under the blazing sun. In addition, this tournament serves as a dress rehearsal for the US Open, where temperatures and humidity can also be relentless. Every match in Cincinnati is an opportunity to test his endurance, his precision, and his ability to stay calm under extreme conditions. His attitude, a mix of naturalness and competitiveness, also connects with the public. It's not just that he wins, but how he does it, with a smile, acknowledging the harshness of the climate, but without excuses. That freshness is part of his personal trademark and makes him one of the favorites on the circuit. If he manages to advance rounds, he will not only gain confidence and competitive rhythm, but will arrive in New York with the certainty that he can perform at his best even when the heat seems unbearable. And in a sport where the margins are so small, that detail can be the key to lifting another Grand Slam. The Cincinnati Heat has been a silent protagonist in this tournament, but for Carlos Alcaraz it is almost an old friend. His Mercian origin, his physical preparation and his combative mentality have allowed him not only to resist it, but to use it as a weapon. With each match, he shows that adaptation is one of his greatest strengths. The duel against Luca Nardi will be another chapter in this story, and each victory under these conditions brings him one step closer to a US Open where the heat could once again be part of the script. The Cincinnati Masters 1000 is proving to be a real challenge, not only because of the level of the rivals, but because of environmental and logistical conditions that seem designed to test anyone's endurance. The heat has become an unwanted protagonist: temperatures above 30 degrees, heat index over 40, and humidity that makes every movement require extra effort. In this kind of weather, even the best prepared players feel how the sweat and dense air steal their energy. But the heat is not the only obstacle. The speed of the courts and of the game forces you to always be one step ahead, with barely any time to react. Every point becomes a race against the clock and every mistake costs twice as much. In the midst of this demanding setting, technical incidents have added a surreal touch to the tournament. A power outage interrupted the action, the LED advertising boards on center court stopped working, and, to top it off, a fire alarm went off in the middle of a match, distracting players and the public. When it seemed like things couldn't get more chaotic, the weather decided to join the party. A summer storm, one of those that arrive with sudden fury, broke out just before Alcaraz was to step onto the court. The black clouds, thunder, and downpour forced everything to stop, leaving the players waiting without knowing for sure when they could resume the day. These interruptions affect not only the body but also concentration, because they force you to recalibrate all the previous preparation. During this time, Carlitos had to keep calm and not let impatience destabilize him. Preparing for a tennis match is not only about warming up the muscles. The mind needs a rhythm, a focus that is altered with each delay. The Mercian, however, is used to dealing with demanding environments and knows that, in these situations, the key is not to waste mental energy ahead of time. The tournament, meanwhile, went on as best it could, with previous matches dragging on longer than expected and with a crowd that went from sweltering heat to momentary coolness after the rain. All this added to the atmosphere of uncertainty that dominated center court, where tension grew with each passing minute. For a player like Alcaraz, young but already used to pressure, this kind of day is an extra lesson in adaptability. It's not enough to train to hit the ball well, you have to learn to navigate external setbacks without losing focus on the main goal, winning.